I think it's Monday or Tuesday. There were several questions that were raised. Okay. And totally, I think we have at least 4 to 5 questions. It would take some time to go through all of them. So I'm thinking that I will uh, first speak on those questions today. So we'll not be hearing Maharaj. So I'll speak for a few minutes as my thoughts on those questions and then open it up for others to speak on it. So uh, I hope you all don't mind not hearing to Maharaj today instead hearing to me. So let me start. The first question that was actually asked the other day. Let me see. So the first question that was asked today is that we were discussing about how Maharaj was choosing the words that he was having in his mind, choosing the words for the audience appropriately. Like, for example, rather than using the word offense, he then corrected it and said a mistake. So the question that came up was, how do we know the audience and how to prepare for it? That was the first question. So, number one, why is it that we communicate? Or like, or rather, is it required for us to know our audience at all? People may often say that I'm just going to speak what I like to speak. Now, so, whom or do we typically communicate to? We communicate to our children, we communicate to our spouse, we communicate sometimes to our broader community where we are positioned in, our friend circle, sometimes to public audience. Sometimes we also communicate, we have to communicate in an office, in a work setting. In various places, we do communicate. And is it important for us to know our audience? Many times people think, I just want to be myself. I'm going to speak what I'm going to speak. I don't care about what the other person thinks. Because the more I care about others, I am not staying true to myself. I am living my life for others, but not for my own self. How long am I? And sometimes it feels like a burden, or it's a charade, or it's like an acting that one puts up for the sake of others. Uh, Come to everybody's, have a good smile, inquire pleasantries. Are you doing good? How are you? Etc. Rather than just being where we are. So sometimes people feel that the inherent in the question that why should I know my audience is I am here to enjoy. Why am I here to give happiness to others? Now, this whole business of giving happiness to others, being mindful of others' feelings, being mindful of others' sensitivities is so tough. I end up losing my own self. जिया तो किसके लिए जिया? That's the question that comes up. So the whole point sometimes it comes up is it really required when we speak to different categories of people? Number one, that's one aspect of it. And why do we communicate? Many times we communicate primarily to achieve an outcome. I want something for myself, or I think something is important, and therefore I speak to others. So it is an outcome based communication. And to do this, sometimes we may tell it directly, sometimes we end up in a manipulative way. Right? I speak certain words, not directly what I want, but to make the other person feel the importance of what I want and make them say yes to it. So you can call it as a sense of manipulation. We do that sometimes. And sometimes we communicate to seek empathy. We want others to be empathetic to our condition. Sometimes we communicate for our own self fulfillment. When I say self fulfillment, uh, I mean that I may know something, I want to show everybody that I know something, or basically I have put a lot of effort in something, and I want to test myself that do I really know everything well, or can I get value from others for it? So these are the different reasons why we communicate. And notice, if you can notice in all of this, mostly our communication is self-centered. It's all about us. Whereas there is a different kind of communication, which is all about what is it that the other person wants. And the pinnacle of it is actually talking to Krishna. So the japa, the chanting that we do in the morning, or if you cannot do in the morning at any other time of the day, is actually a conversation with Krishna. What do you like, Krishna? When we read the scripture, it is actually a conversation, or I mean, or it is actually a movie in one sense, not a conversation, a movie which shows the dialogues between various exalted persons and how they are speaking to Krishna. So we are quite interested there, especially when reading scriptures, on what is it that great souls want to communicate. And so you have on one side you have the scriptures, and on the other side, or the other extreme, you have the movies, fiction novels, etc. When you read when you see the movies and the fiction novel, read the novels as such,
அங்க
we get
அங்க
enthralled, or we get completely captivated
அந்த
by.
டப்பாலயே இருக்காங்க. இந்த அந்த ஜன்னல் இருக்கு என் சைடுல அங்க ஸ்ட்ரைட்
Okay,
அங்க.
Mataji, can you mute yourself? Okay. So um, when we watch a movie or or even read a novel, over there we get completely uh, Hare Krishna. There's still a background. Let me try muting all. So I'm sorry for the pause here. So when we read a novel or when we watch a movie, we are completely into a particular character in the movie or in the novel. Why? Because there is something gripping happening here, or it touches our own feelings. There is an element of mystery sometimes, etc. But all the while, if you look at it, it is how can I relate to that other character, or how that character gives me happiness. But reading scriptures is a little different. Reading scriptures is what was the happiness that this particular devotee was feeling. Maybe I can feel it. That comes next. But appreciating that person in the script whom the scripture refers to for his or her own sake, that is the next step that scriptures take us to when we go away from when we go from fiction or movies to the scripture. That's the next step. That's the next step that we actually go to. And this step is necessary for us to be an effective spokesperson or an effective speaker when speaking to a public audience about scriptures, which is we appreciate the persons in scripture, that is the Supreme Lord, the devotees, and others for their own sake. It is we don't go with an agenda that keeping ourselves at the center. And that's the important aspect that before we know the audience, I mean, before we get to know the details of knowing the audience, we have to connect to great spiritual persons for their own sake, not for our own selves as such. But then comes the next question. Having known that, how do I connect to the audience? Connection to an audience or connection to anybody else or awareness of others is a consequence of self-awareness. And self-awareness is a consequence of pleasing Guru and Krishna. And to please Guru and Krishna, one has to know something about them from the scriptures. Because scriptures are the only way for us to know about it. And the message of the scriptures from other devotees are also part of that process. So it is not when we often talk about how come this person is able to speak so well and connect to the audience. Part of it is they have been blessed by Krishna to understand themselves and understand others. That is a gift that they have received. Some of them can be devotees who have received that gift. Some of them may not be devotees who have received the gift. But yet, that is a blessing that does come from the Supreme Lord Himself. Whether we render direct devotional service or indirect devotional service, it is a blessing to know others. Why? Because getting to others' hearts requires that we need some connection to the Paramatma within our heart. I have the Paramatma in my heart. There's the Paramatma in somebody else's heart. And to know somebody else's heart, it is through the medium of the super soul or the Paramatma. So therefore, what's important here is we have to connect to the Supreme Lord, number one, and we have to learn in order to connect to other audiences, we have to gradually shift from being me centered to appreciating the devotees or getting to know about devotees, getting to know about Supreme Lord for their own sake. And then that will slowly transform to getting to know others for their own sake, not for what they have to offer to me. That's that was one core point that I wanted to talk about. Second, when we hear a lecture, uh, especially or when we hear anybody else too in general, we often hear for the content that they speak, but we also have to learn to hear emotionally. What is the feeling of the other person? When the more we are connected to the feelings of the other persons, then how our communication also becomes effective. That's the next point here. Third, it so happens that to impact others in communication or for communication to be effective, we may have the best of intentions for others. We may be trying to connect to Krishna, but there is a skill also required, and the skill is improving our own vocabulary. We may at times be so used to uh, the words that we have only learned from childhood that we don't enrich or replenish our vocabulary, especially the words which indicate the emotional feelings, etc. So it's important to use various techniques which you can find. I mean, everybody has their own techniques. You can have an app or you can read some additional literature, etc. To, or even by just by hearing Maharaj's lectures, we can improve our own vocabulary. In fact, many devotees have said that just by reading Prabhupada's books, their vocabulary has improved a lot. So that's important here. Um, as far as this question about knowing the audience and how to prepare for it. And one last thing here is the moment communication becomes a medium to accomplish something for us, usually we end up very much being frustrated. In other words, if say tomorrow many of you may be speaking on the scriptures, what the mistake which many people do while speaking about scriptures is they hear lectures from some sources, they jot down points, and then they try to replicate it. It works for some time. For many people, it works for some time. But after that some period of time, one feels a sense of emptiness when doing that. Why? Because one has not really got deep into the content to speak about it. Krishna wants us to be purified by Kirtana. What is Kirtana? Kirtana means the glorification of Krishna. Let the glory of Krishna be the glory coming the way Krishna has blessed you, not necessarily the way Krishna has blessed others. But then we often have heard, very and very rightfully so, that one has to speak from the parampara. And Srila Prabhupada has often said, you hear my lectures and you just speak what I have given. Now, so it means, does it mean that I just, like a parrot, repeat what somebody else has said, like what Srila Prabhupada has said in a lecture? Do I just repeat it? In the beginning, yes. But as days progress, begin to appreciate why Prabhupada has spoken that way, or why any nice devotee like different devotees whom we hear in the morning, how they are hearing, why they are hearing. We have to appreciate that. And with that appreciation, it has to become one with our internal feelings, and then we have to speak. So, or in other words, there is a period of time, a long period of time in our spiritual path that we are conditioned. Probably after a long period of time, our conditioning becomes lesser, and hopefully by the end of our life, our material conditioning decreases. Irrespective of our conditioning, whether it is huge conditioning, material conditioning, that is the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, etc., whether it is less or whether it is more, irrespective of that, there is the spiritual path in which we are gradually building our unique, or we are uncovering our unique spiritual personality. And part of that unique spiritual personality is in getting attracted to Krishna Katha in a particular way. And Krishna will bless each of us to understand and appreciate Krishna Katha in a particular way, which will be consistent with the previous acharyas. In other words, it is our job to see that when we have appreciations for Krishna Katha, it has to be consistent with what the previous acharyas have said. But we may just like one aspect of it. For example, some people like the mood of dependence which great devotees have for Krishna. Some people like the playsomeness, the playful or the frolicsome uh, behavior of some devotees towards Krishna. Some people like the gambhirya, or the gravity with which Krishna, or Supreme Lord in his various manifestations, engages with others. So all of these are true, but every individual chooses something from this list or over a period of time. And that's nice to have that choice, that selection. But one should not end up choosing something else. Like, for example, uh, these days, at least in the country that I'm staying in right now, there's a lot of focus on nationalism, uh, uh, how our country is great, etc. It's nice to have it, but it's not ultimately a spiritual platform. A nation, according to many, is defined by according to many people here, it's dependent on the culture that they have. So they call it as Hindutva and many other ways they call it. But the scriptural way of understanding it is a nation is built on people who commonly work towards removing their conditioning and going back to Godhead. So the scriptural definition is much more all encompassing than what we have, the narrative that is being peddled by the common folks. So we tend to be influenced by these common narratives, and we should be very careful that our conditioning, like when we appreciate Krishna Katha, it is not tainted by this conditioning from the community around us or from the country or what's happening in the current circumstances around us. And why am I saying this? When we communicate to others, it is true that we have a particular proclivity or a particular liking for certain subjects. But even when we communicate, we should see to it as much as possible. Am I communicating? Although I like a particular aspect, but that particular aspect should conform to the scriptures. That is more important than trying to speak to impress somebody and gather some brownie points. Okay. So uh, this is, this I felt is important. Like in the pursuit of communication, we get so caught up in the success of it, but not in the process of it. So this is in general for others, but bringing the message back home, back to communicating with our own spouses, our family members, our children, or our extended family, etc. One thing that we have to notice, that we have to be very careful about, is There is a very strong tendency in most of us to be what is generally called as a narcissist. A narcissist is all about himself. So others are there only to give me happiness. And we do that even with our own children, with our own spouse, parents, everybody else. Uh, it's good to be aware, not to be too much self-conscious as such, but the easier way out, rather than being aware about it and always being circumspect. Why am I talking like that? Instead of that, easier exercise is every day. Can I just talk something to bring ultimately some spiritual happiness to others? And if not, at least there some emotional happiness to others. That mood, when cultivated, will take care of other aspects. So there were four questions. I think like it's 6:50. We could cover only one so far. Before we move on or anything at all, any comments, any corrections from any of you?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavastana.
Hare Krishna.
So, as you said, regarding the nationalism, if someone may influence us by posting some videos or something like that, that time we also influenced on that particular moment. But how do we uh, take care on that, Prabhu? To do not
The,
react or something.
the key thing here is it's good to, I mean, if we should have pride, let us have pride that the Supreme Lord has accepted me and given me opportunities for progressing in devotional service. Not that I am born in a particular country, etc. We should be. It's good to have. The main why do people get swayed by nationalism, etc. Because everybody is looking for an identity, and that identity should give me happiness. And so when we speak, oh, you're born in this country of India, which is such a great country, and we feel happy. Oh, I am from this background. So fine. So when we hear it, we should come back to our scriptures to say, know that whether a person is born in India or China or Philippines or anything, everybody is a part and parcel of Krishna. Uh, Krishna wants everybody to be connected to him. Krishna wants everybody to be happy. So that much we should keep in mind too, that everybody is equally connected to Krishna or part and parcel of Krishna. Many times people use the phrase while communicating, everybody is a child of God. That phrase is limited in the sense because in the spiritual, uh, final spiritual identity, somebody may be a child of God, somebody may be a mother of God, or somebody may be a friend of God. It's very limited understanding that we are all children of God. And the phrase we are children of God generally is used to indicate that children come from parents. That in the same way, we or have our source of or our origin is from the Supreme Lord. In that sense, we are the children of God. But that's not the common way which people think when they we see ourselves as children of God. When the word children of God is used, it's like how children ask parents for everything. Give me this, give me that. We treat God as our order supplier. God make this happen for me. God make that happen for me. So rather than the philosophical understanding as our origin is from God, we treat ourselves when we say children of God as God is my order supplier or is my wish fulfilling supplier rather. So we have to understand that every soul in this world, every person of every nationality is having their origin from God and they have their own value. Uh, it is just that we are fortunate that in the Bharata Bhumi, there are many places where the Supreme Lord enacted his pastimes. That's it. We should be fortunate for it, but not have pride for it. But having the fortune for it, it also becomes our responsibility to ensure these places are protected, they are cared for, and next generation of the next generation also has access to all of this. That effort we should put. But that is not nationalism. That is being grateful for what we receive. So there's a difference between being grateful for what we receive and having our identity as I'm a country and I belong to this country. Rather, our identity is I belong to a culture which focuses on God. That is a good identity to have. Does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhu. Right.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, I have a similar question what you spoke about the nationality. When we are gifted with the certain places where we can relate with the Shastras and the scriptures, and it is our duty to protect it. But how can you protect it? You can protect it as a nation only as of today. In the current situation, how can you protect it? I mean, you don't have any other way to protect it apart from protecting it as a nation. I mean, whatever is the feeling behind Arjun fought for the dharma, for the protection of the land. So if
Yes,
someone is fighting to protect the places where all our Krishna came, all other incarnations came, why shouldn't it be nationalism? Because in the today's world, we can't protect the land without
mm,
terming it as a nation.
mm. Okay. Let me elaborate a little bit further. You are from Varanasi, and there is a, I think there's a place, I haven't visited, but I've heard about it. There is a temple called Bharat Mata Temple. You, you have been there?
No, Prabhu.
Okay. It's probably a recent one too. Not,
Yeah,
maybe not that recent.
I didn't hear it before, maybe, or but I didn't hear it before, Prabhu.
Somewhere. It's there somewhere. It's called the Bharat Mata Temple.
Not the
Uh,
ancient ones, I think so.
huh?
I don't think so. These are the ancient ones, like the old ones.
It's not exactly. It's a recent one. So we have Bhumata or Bhudevi or Mother Earth. She is common for everybody. It is not that there is a Bhumata only for India. When we read Ramayana, we also heard about Lankini. She was a lady who was protecting Lanka. Likewise, do we have a Bharat Mata specifically protecting us? From the scriptural standpoint, we don't see anything. That we hear about Bhudevi who protect for whom everybody is a child. Everybody trots on her, steps on her, and she is okay to bear the weight of everybody on planet Earth, right? So what you're saying that I mean, where I wanted to bring about, I mean, you are saying that we need a nation to protect. Yes, we need an army to protect. Yes, agree to it completely. Parikshit Maharaj had an army, Yudhishthira Maharaj had an army. All of that is correct. Or in other words, the whole notion of non-violence, that allowing others to do whatever they want to do, as Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi said, is his own figment of imagination. Agreed. Where I was trying to address here is in communicating to others. Like, say, if Srila Prabhupada had this notion that India is great, then he would have not made this as International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It would become the Indian Society for Krishna Consciousness, right? He went to every country and said, there is something which Bharat Bhumi has to offer, and I give you, and I want to give you. So there is a very subtle, thin line difference where one can protect one's to protect this culture, to protect the philosophy. It's very much important, but that can be done thinking it belongs to this land versus it belongs that Krishna has given this for everybody in this world. And probably it is localized here for now, we have to protect it. So we instead of this second aspect, what I said, it is probably localized here in geography for now. And it is better to even take it. What Srila Prabhupada did is fabulous. Today, if you want to protect the culture in India, you may say that yes, I have to protect all these holy places. What Prabhupada did is He took it to the West, he took it to Africa, he took it to Europe. Now it is not localized to India alone. That's the greatness of Srila Prabhupada, that he is taking what was those places where Krishna appeared in India. The sadhu carries Krishna in his heart, and he took it to all the places in the world. So he's making every place a holy place, right? Often people from other countries, they say, why only India? Are we a condemned lot? No, you're not a condemned lot, because Prabhupada came to bring to you what was there in the Bharata version. So the more we focus on just Bharata Varsha and etc., we alienate others. So we have to be careful of not alienating others and instead bringing value in their lives in whichever country they stay, in whichever city they stay. So protection is important, but not at the expense of uh, exclusiveness. So many times protection becomes exclusive, that it is only exclusive for people born in India. That should not be there, Mataji. And I think you also have the same thing, right?
Yes, Prabhu, yes, that is very clear. So my point was that nationality should not be I'm protecting my land, at least for
Mm.
us. But
Correct.
there should be a very strong sense that I have to protect the Krishna's land where he appeared.
Correct. Correct.
But
Yes.
like
Yeah.
my point was in today's world, we can protect it only with the nation. Like
While we do
otherwise,
so, when we do it, we have to cultivate the consciousness exactly as what you said. This is Krishna's place of
Mhm.
pastime. This is Krishna's something, the books that he gave, this culture that he gave, the knowledge that he gave. We have to protect all of this and
Yes,
grow it to others and enrich it in various ways. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Any other
Thank you.
thought here? Thank you. Thank you, man. Any other thought from others?
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhu
Krishna.
Dandot. Prabhu, I will take this question to the next level if you are okay with that.
Yes, Prabhu.
Um, Seeing the current political turmoil situation to the eastern boundary, and what we are hearing, and I think I was just seeing that from the ISKCON perspective, we have completely a different division. I mean, we have division within the society how to respond to that situation. And the eastern boundary, which is Bangladesh.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, I understand, Prabhu. Yes, please go ahead.
So there, the people who are practicing Krishna consciousness, they may be with society, may not be with society. However, the common thing is that if you chant the name of the Lord Hari there, you are behind the bar, something like that. And
Correct.
I was just seeing this. I mean, if you extrapolate that, in another 23 years, similar situation would be in India. So, as a practitioner of Krishna consciousness, how we should be dealing with this? If you think it is appropriate, you may please answer. Otherwise, we may take off.
Okay, definitely. I mean, this is the question which has been there. The question that you've asked is, we hear so much scripture, but how do we apply in this circumstance, right? It's
Yes, Prabhu.
very,
Yes.
I want to hear, if possible, let me see. Sharbari Mataji, you are very close to where all this is happening. I would like to hear from you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I actually have no idea. I'm just enjoying the discussion that all of you are having, but I don't have any idea or any clue. But my take would be we have to believe that our Krishna consciousness, what we are doing, you just believe and proceed with it without thinking what it might lead to. So one day,
Mm.
if I chant, I might be in jail. It shouldn't prevent us from not chanting. So that would be my take. Because we believe in this Krishna consciousness, we have to pursue it with the belief that we are doing it, and Krishna will protect us in all scenarios. And with that belief, we have to proceed. So that would be my take, Prabhu.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to add here? Anybody else? I have some thoughts, but I would like to hear from others.
Are you in Bangladesh, Prabhu, by the way?
No, far away,
You are
man.
in
Jamshid.
Bangladesh.
Yeah, yeah.
Where are you right now? Which country?
No, no, no. I'm in Bangalore.
Bangalore only. Okay, okay.
Anybody else would like to say? You have thought through it, or it's been
Prabhu,
affecting
I
you?
have one point.
Yes, yes, Janesh.
Prabhu, it is known that as a devotee, we know we need to practice. If we are in
Hmm.
jail or if they are going to kill us. What about
Hmm.
general public which they don't know how to they are not practicing Krishna consciousness in
Hmm.
any other country?
Yes. So, what when you say you mean to say there may be? Are you speaking about the general mass of people, whether they may be belong to religion one or religion two, or are you speaking when you say the word general public? Does it mean people who follow Sanatana Dharma, but not necessarily the teachings of fully the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as given by the Vaishnava Acharyas? Which one do you mean, Prabhu? When you say general public?
General public which they don't practice anything, so like they may go to temples and all,
Ah,
but
hmm,
not like we do
correct,
go regular practice hearing
correct,
and all.
correct. See, one thing, when you, what should general public do? So I'll take both Yugal Kishore Prabhu's point and yours one by one. Me first, I'll come to yours here, Prabhu. The scriptures are, especially the Vedic scriptures, they have a lot of tolerance. They give high standards and they say, even if you can't follow the highest standard, follow even just one aspect, that is okay. And that was the means by which, if you see in the scriptures, in the Dharma Smriti especially, it gives qualities for, it says that a so-called Brahmana should do one, two, three, four, some hundred items it will give. Then a so-called Vaishya should do this, Shudra should do this, Kshatriya should do this, all of that. Then it also speaks about a brahmachari should do this, a grahastha should do that, a vanaprastha should do this, and a sannyas should do this. But then the way the scriptures are written is, even if you're not able to do something, it doesn't say the moment you don't do this, you are not a brahmachari. The moment you do this, you are not a grahastha. It doesn't say that way. It says, come back and be reestablished in this. Try again to come back. It doesn't try to remove the a person away from the society. That's the large-heartedness of the scriptures which are coming from the Supreme Lord. In other words, the scriptures that we have received are not communal or sectarian, or that is only if you belong to this community you can do it. Otherwise, others are not allowed. That is not number one what our scripture does. Second is that they tolerate us. They understand that we are under the influence of Maya. Nobody is going to be perfect here. It is okay. Wherever you are, try how much ever you want. And that is why the general public, they may not follow Bhagavad Gita fully, etc. Everybody may just do a little bit of it, but do something and try to increase it during the course of your life. Therefore, what happens is the general public will not be interested in protecting Dharma, but it is the duty of those who are practicing Dharma to ensure that the standards of those who are practicing in general, they may go to the temple once a month. They may get up in the morning, they may just put one tika or put a vibhuti or they may put a tilak, whatever be that. They'll put a tilak, they'll just bow down in front of a picture of what they have, of a deity, and then they'll go. They may not tell a single shloka, but they acknowledge there is God and they'll just pay obeisance at home. That's it. They may not be like us who chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Agreed. But even their condition has to be protected. They may not know it, but it is the duty of those who have been um, given the higher knowledge, like us. It is our duty to protect them, even though they may not ask for it. That is why it is said the king who is more qualified has to protect everybody else. And so then coming, we, so we have to take care of them, even though they may not like it. So we have to protect institutions. We have to protect culture. We have to protect scriptures for them because if not now, some other time at a later point in life, they may want it. Even if they don't want it at a later point in time, their children or their grandchildren may find it useful. So with that uh, vision, we have to protect, do something for them. But then coming to what Yugala Kishore Prabhu said, the first non-cooperation movement was done by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was the one when the Sankirtan movement was stopped by Chand Kazi in the Nadia district. He organized like more than 10 lakh people, and they all came to the house of Chand Kazi. Mahaprabhu did indicate to us that when required, you'll have to gather together, group together, and the together is the might. Or when we are there together, there is strength in it. He said you'll have to work for it. You cannot just keep quiet and do nothing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the blueprint. So it is not, it maybe some people like Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi would have said, if somebody slaps you on one cheek, show the other cheek. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't say that. Krishna didn't say that. So it is required for us to organize and do it. What's happening is, I think what the institution is doing here is, it is going two ways. On one side, it is not um, explicitly at loggerheads with the government of Bangladesh, but what that particular individual is doing is also, in one sense, aligned to what Mahaprabhu did to organize people and protest for this. So the question that comes is, how can somebody help him more? And what can the neighboring countries like India and other countries do to help the people there? It is very much required. This, if nobody goes to the help there, it's a loss of dharma. Yeah, one is not doing one's duty properly. Definitely. Does that resonate with you, Yugalakisha Prabhu, or am I missing a point? Or you
No, yes,
say
I
something?
think this is very wonderful, your explanation, having that, because I feel that there is some kind of um, little bit from our side. Initially, we had as a society, we distant, and then later again there was a backfire, and again we have to release another note, and so things. But your point is good. So I mean, which you say that is along with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's thing. Sitting here, what we can do, I think we'll have to contemplate on that, what we can support that movement. Why I'm saying this is just my fear, Prabhu. Another 1 or 2 generation in India, we may have to face similar situation, and that is
Yeah,
where I'm just thinking that if our next generation, 1 or 2 generations, may not even allow to chant the name of Lord Hari. So that
yeah,
is what my fear is, that, Prabhu.
yeah. So you're right. We have to do something from our side as much as possible, not just sitting in whichever place where we are. However, we should also learn how Mother Earth, when the burden of Mother Earth was very high, she went and prayed, along with all the demigods, they went to pray to Vishnu. In all of this, we have to pray to the Supreme Lord, because when the force of Adharma increases, the strength from Him is required. We may or we may not have the strength to counter it, but the Supreme Lord may invest that strength in somebody. Probably it happened with that person who was protesting very nicely there. Probably he has been endowed with that strength. I hope so. We may or we may not get it, but we should not stop praying to Krishna that please let the Yuga Dharma of Hare Krishna Sankirtan be there everywhere in every place. Let it not be stopped. Do something, please. And Krishna, he is waiting for us to pray. The other way of doing it is, what can I do? It means I have to put my own effort. But the path of bhakti is plead to plead to Krishna and work on our own. Both are required. Not just pray and do nothing. It's pray and do something. But many times we forget to pray and we just act. So both are required.
Very, very beautiful, bro. Thank you so much. I think that is the um, that is how, as we Krishna, our Gaudiya Parampara actually differs from the
Mm.
definition of bhakti compared to the Sri Vaishnava or Madhvacharya Sampradaya, says that we emphasize that first in our part, and then definitely is depend on Krishna. And that is what the scripture says. Thank you so much. Very beautiful.
Okay, 7:17. I will end the call here. We'll again meet next week, but the other remaining three questions we'll take later. We'll continue with hearing Maharaj's lecture on Monday. Okay.